Welcome back. This is Face the Nation, the final round. I start off the final round with the very emotional Mr. Rusiripala Thendakone, civil rights activist. Ms. Thendakone, what's going to happen next? Now, people are waiting. There are startling revelations at the Presidential Commission of Bond Inquiry. That's number one. Mr. Jayaratne was correctly pointing out we're now focused on the bond scam and forgetting about all the other scams that have taken place over the last 3 years or so. What's going to happen next? Has the government learned a lesson? Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Or are they yet to learn a lesson?
No, I think things are not that silent, because the statement made by the President that he be given the authority to handle the FCIDs and the other investigating bodies, to bring to a conclusion all these allegations that have been leveled up against the people, for various frauds. It's a very big involvement and a statement that the public was waiting for. I mean, that shows very clearly one thing, that he, as the head of the government, does not endorse what is going on. So that means, if he can't just say that he is not endorsing it, he should have the alternate options in his mind. So now, we are heading in for the second term of the consensus government. Why I say the second term is, they announced that they entered into some kind of agreement between the two major parties how to govern the country during the first 2 years. Now that first 2 years is coming to an end. In August, they are stepping into a new period. For some reason or the other, the President has said it is December, not August, maybe for reasons best known to him. But anyway, 3 months is not a very big time. After all, we have now seen 2.5 years we have passed. So therefore, let us wait and see. We are coming to a very important turning point in the politics of this country, where the President will have to assert his position and the continuation of the government as the head of the government, because people elected him to govern this country. According to the constitution at that time, it was the President that was powerful, and it was the President in whom the people had confidence. It was the President that was seen as the main functioning pivot and the central point of the government. So therefore, that President remains. So he has to see what he is going to do for the next 2 years of the continuation of this government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rusiripala Thendakone. I now move my attention to Dr. W. Wijewardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Dr. Wijewardena, one thing is clear. The people are very much dissatisfied the way in which things are moving. The country's economy looks in a bad shape. Despite the fact we are getting the third tranche from the International Monetary Fund, that does not mean that our country's economy is stable. Much more needs to be done. Then there is corruption, which is rampant, as Mr. Jayaratne correctly pointed out. We are just focusing on the bond, but there is so much more to that has to be investigated properly and scrutinized, and ensure that those who are responsible are brought to book. Given all this, do you think that the government has got its priorities right?
Government has
got its priorities right?
No, I don't think so, because the immediately after the new government was sworn in, Samir, they would have announced a clear policy package. That policy package should have consisted of, number one, the good governance principle that they are adopting, the ministers, MPs, senior public servants and so forth. Then the economic policy that they are going to pursue during the balanced 5-year period, and also the political reform program which the government has already taken forward. And nothing was announced by the government, and they were trying to fix it in piecemeal, and as a result, the main economic thrust has been lost now, and we have got only 2.5 years more. And 2017, Samir, is a complete write-off, because our growth rate would be even less than 4% during this year, and we cannot do anything about it now. So we are having only 2018 and 2019 and part of 2020. So 2.5 year period is not sufficient for the government to introduce a major reform program now, because we have already lost 2.5 years period. So what I mean is that whatever the action that the government should take, it has to take for the temporary measures that it has to introduce to rescue the economy, and then after the election, next election, they can go for the major reform program.
Dr. Vijayawardena, before I leave you tonight, I hear that you're launching a book.
Yeah, in fact, this is a book on central banking, Samir. It's a collection of articles, 20 articles, which talk about the independence of the central bank, the governance of the monetary board, the monetary policy measures that it has to take, and various other matters related to the current central bank issues. So the book is to be launched on 29th of this month with Governor Indrajit Kumarasamy and Minister Dr. Sarath Amanugama as the chief key players at the book launch.
Dr. Vijayawardena, very quickly, you said that your book is going to articulate transparency, independency of the central bank. Do you think that the independency and the transparency of the central bank has lost completely?
We have lost. I mean, the book itself says we have lost.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Vijayawardena, for your thoughts as well. Mr. Chandra Jayaratna, former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Jayaratna, this government promised to arrest the culprits who were involved in wrongdoings in the previous government. Now it seems that they should be really busy arresting and investigating those who are corrupt within the government itself, isn't it?
I wouldn't say which government, I would say anybody who has been corrupt. I'm not talking about the small corruption, mega corruption. Anybody who's been responsible for mega corruption must be pursued vigorously, and we must try to recover the assets that have been stolen from these public funds. That's the answer to your question. But I'd like to say a few things in closing. What must happen? First is, if there is anybody who's in governance, in cabinet, in executive, anybody who has done, let them get up tomorrow morning, go before a mirror and ask them the question. If they have consciously done something which is against the interest of this country's future generations, our public funds, let them resign without hindering this government's possible next 2.5 years of work. That's one. I would ask all the executives and professionals, very specifically the accountants and lawyers, engineers and others who are in professional valuers, to adopt the policy of declaring, if they ever find any transaction not in compliance with the laws and regulations of this country, and not participate in such a transaction. The third is, I would ask the government or the president to kindly entrust and empower the Auditor General to freedom of selecting what he thinks are the 5 largest economic value based audits that he must do: economy, efficiency and effectiveness, and wastage and corruption related audit.
Vijayawardena,
2 more things very quickly. And then get the president to use executive orders as a means of instituting things which are required for good governance without waiting for the law to be made.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chandra Jayaratna, former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. If you really listen very carefully to Mr. Jayaratna's remarks, you would really realize that Mr. Jayaratna did not mention about a certain segment of professionals in Sri Lanka, that is the doctors. And why is that, Mr. Jayaratna?
All of them. In my submissions to the president, which you have seen a copy, I have mentioned all of them: valuers, doctors, architects.
Very quickly, do you think what doctors are doing right now is justifiable? Even after speaking, having rounds of discussions with the President and the Prime Minister, again a token strike tomorrow. Is that justifiable?
Certainly not, because there are bigger issues within the medical profession and the health of this country that they should first focus. If they say what they are doing, right? If what they are saying is that this is for the benefit of the patients, they are saying what they are doing is for the benefit of the people, there are much more priority things the doctors should focus their eyes on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chandra Jayaratna, former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, for joining us this evening. Thank you very much, Dr. W. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. In a few days' time, a book is to be unveiled, and that is something to look forward to, Dr. Vijayawardena. And thank you very much, Mr. Sripal Thennakoon. He, of course, has already published a book, and nice to have the intellectuals coming and participating on the show and expressing their views. Thank you very much, Charita, for joining us this evening. Thank you very much, Chaturanga, for joining us this evening as well. And thank you very much, Faraz, for joining us this evening. You were asking about the coconut trees at the Kuliapitiya premises. I presume that you didn't know that the government is looking at importing coconuts as well, in a very sarcastic note.
Yes. Do you know how much a coconut tree is?
I am really not sure. I need to get a proper valuer.
You need to get the chief government valuer.
There you go. Tomorrow morning for us, who's your guest?
The one, the only, the very inimitable and the journalist in the making, Zulfiq Farzan, who's been covering the events at the Presidential Commission for the last 70+ days. And he's on his 8th notebook. He's bringing them all to our program tomorrow morning, and we're going to have a lovely time.
Right, so that's something to look forward to as well. As far as brought in a granny coat, I thought I'll tonight end the show with a granny coat as well. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Don't be satisfied with who you are or what you know. You're losing ground if you fail to grow. Don't be so bullheaded. Don't beat a dead horse. Don't believe anything you hear and half you see. Don't bet the farm. Don't bet the rent. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. And that's for the professionals of this country. And then a little bit of advice, or a quote for the Prime Minister as well, who is celebrating 40 years in Parliament, something to commend. A little bit of advice for him as well. If I am being rejected from one thing, it's really just the path redirecting me elsewhere to where I am supposed to be. Is politics the future, Mr. Prime Minister? I'll leave it for you to decide. Take care and good night.